Okay, now step two, I'd like to talk a little bit more about using multiple images together so that you can start to uh, combine them and work with them to create a larger composition or piece. So let's see what we can do. Let's go take a look at some images that I have. So I was thinking of this image, and this image, which is the edge of a leaf, and you kind of that sawtooth-like effect. That we might be able to like kind of combine them all together. So let's try to do that. We could just open all of them, but I'm just going to open one of them, and then we'll open the other ones inside of this one. So the first thing I want to give you a sense of is how could we combine images together? One of the things that you can't do when you have multiple images all together is you cannot crop them individually. So it might be a good idea to envision like, well, what of this image do I want? What do I not? Yeah, so so we'll kind of get into that, and then maybe I'll even show you like, oh, maybe this becomes complicated, and what could I do about it? So, and what I want to do is try to make things simple for this assignment. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to crop this image down just to get the center here. Okay, makes sense, right? Now, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to go back to Bridge, and I'm going to go ahead and open up both of these images. So I've got this one. So I'm going to go ahead and crop it down. And we find the other one here. Let's crop it down. Okay, so now I kind of have this image, and this image. The thing is, they're not all together. So the easiest thing to do is to kind of have a sense of them, where they are, and it's the easiest way to kind of put. You can bring in an image. So one option I have is I could save all these, and then I could bring them all. I could use a command to bring them all together called file place embedded, which means it'll just take another JPEG image and bring it into this image. The other option I have, if they are open in different tabs up here, is I can come down to my layers panel in one, and I can right click on one, and I can say duplicate layer one, and then I can say please duplicate it to, and in this case, I need to choose, I need to know which one of these images I want. So they're really long file names actually, so it's a bit difficult to see that. So I think what I will do instead is I'm just going to quickly save these. Okay, so I've saved all of these as image 1, 2, and 3. So I have image 1 open here. And now I am going to come in here and say place embedded, and we'll find, going to go to the desktop. I'm going to find image 2. Where did my image 2 go? Okay, found my image 2. So I'm going to go to File, Place Embedded. I'm going to go to my desktop, and image 2, and I'm going to go ahead and press place. Now it's kind of confusing, but this image is going to place right on top of this one because it's actually pretty much the same exact size, right? So this, I'm going to just put this here. Actually, kind of funny because it's the same image because I actually have image. There's my image one. So now I'm going to do file, place, embedded image 2. And there that is. It's a little bit different, pretty similar, but so I'm going to put this over to the side. This is interesting because you can see the outline, but as we go to the side, it kind of disappears. So we're going to deal with that in just a second. So why don't we click OK, with a check mark at the top, which finalizes it. Now notice down in my layers that I have image, the background image, which is my image 1. I'll go ahead and change that to double click on it to unlock it, say image 1, keep things clear. Then I have image 2, and I'm going to do file, place, and I'll bring in image 3. And I'll just put that over here to the right and click check. Now I have image 1, 2, and 3. My problem is that I don't have enough room to put them. So there is something in Photoshop under image called canvas size. And this is a work area essentially. So right now my canvas size is 9 by 11 inches. So I'm happy with the height here, but I'm not really happy with the width. I need it to be much wider, probably 3 times as wide. So I'm going to go ahead and I'd rather just put more in there. So I'm going to put 40 inches, which sounds awfully large, but let's just go with that. Click OK. And now everything kind of just got bigger, but I can't really see more. So one thing to remember is when you can go to view, and you can zoom out or zoom in. And so I'm going to click zoom out. So it's going to, and there's a quick command for that under view. So command plus zooms in, command minus zooms out. So let's just do that one more time. So now we can at least see this edge to edge, right? So now what I can do is if I come up here to my very top tool, it's called the move tool, and it moves things around. So I can, whatever is the top layered image here, if I'm clicking on, it will select it and move it. So I'm going to click on this and move this over to the side here. And I'm going to click on this one and move this one over to the side. So now you can see that we have 3 images. They're not all exactly the same, but we can get a sense of them. These two are very similar. This one's a little different. So what I'm trying to do is I'm going to play around with these, try to align them. I think I might actually kind of try that. And I'm going to show you a trick. These two are really similar. It might be interesting if I took, say, this one, which is image 2, and I changed it a little bit. So under edit is something called transform. And there's also free transform, which highlights it and allows me to sort of change the size. And I kind of have to be a little careful. If I hold down my shift key and go from the corner, then it will scale it proportionally, not change the width to height aspect. I only change one and not the other. I can squish it, which usually doesn't work out so great. So just buyer beware on that. Now I'm going to hit escape, or I can hit this do not enter sign to go back to what it was. What I really want to do with this one though is flip it. So I'm going to flip it horizontal. I'm going to edit, transform. I'm going to go to flip horizontal. So now it's going to switch it. So now I can come over here and I can kind of play around and maybe find a connection point. And if it's kind of snapping here and not doing exactly what I want. So I'm going to zoom in just so we can see it. I want to make that alignment as good as I can, with the right layer selected, layer 2, I can use my arrow keys and just do a very small manual adjustment with my keyboard. So let's check this one out over here. We can zoom in. So I'm going to click on this and it's going to select that layer, and I'm going to use my arrow keys to just put it down. And I'm also going to go over there so that it matches. Now I have this one kind of continuous long form across multiple images. So I've created this larger stitch together. I'm kind of in the process of stitching it together, right? So at this point, what I could do probably, and what would make the most sense would be to kind of think about cropping it down. But before that, I might want to blend these edges. Notice like right here, the difference between these two. This one's pretty similar, but this is considerably different. If I wanted to give the illusion of this all being one larger panoramic, I can use a tool that's called spot healing brush. And what spot healing brush does is it tries to be smart enough to like figure out how to remove differences. So let's try it. It doesn't always work so great. Now I did this and it's giving me a do not enter sign, which means, hey, this is a smart object and it has to be rasterized. So, and it's asking me, do I want to rasterize this? I'm going to say yes. So that allows me to do that. And so now what I can do is I can come along here and I can try to repair it. Now, didn't do such a great job at all. So let me try that again in a smaller area. It's a little bit better, but not fantastic. I might adjust my tools a little bit, make this a little softer. But this might just not be so great. Yeah, it's kind of giving me a hard time. But the goal is that we could blend those together. Now, if that doesn't work, there's another tool. It's called Stamp. And Stamp is nice because you can kind of copy something from one place to another. And it gives you this illustration, which is kind of nice. So I'm going to make that area bigger. The other thing you have to do is you have to hold down the Option key and you have to tell it someplace you want it to stamp from. So for this area over here, it might be good for me to try maybe over in here and then come over in here and like stamp it. You can kind of, so I'm going to do this a little bit and I'm just going to kind of try to do some parallels here. I find it just useful to kind of continuously kind of go and re-click. It stays aligned. I have a click that up at the top here so that it's relative to where your brush is. So if you're down at like 7 o'clock then or 8 o'clock, that's where it's going to pull from each time. But you can hold down and do a new targeted area at any point. But you can see that I got that much better, right? It's much more fluid, and you have to look a lot closer in order to like not to make sure that, but you have to be a little careful because it'll copy bit by bit. So you can come in there and do that, and then you might go back to this and you might try it. But this one's having a little trouble because of how these are on all different layers. So I could, if I needed to, I could flatten my layers because they're kind of together. So I can go to layer and I can go to merge visible layers or flatten layer. And then they'd all be together in one. And I'd probably do better with this tool at this point. Yeah, because it's not sensing an edge. So, and then I could just come over here and do a very similar thing. Again, sometimes the one tool will work better than the other, so you can kind of switch it around, and that usually works pretty well. So there you have a larger image now. There's all types of possibility of what we might want to do with this top here. But this gives you the sense and some tools that you can use. I'll just finish this up by trying two things. One is if I wanted to put I have a white background right now, but if I wanted to do say a black background, I could do that. I could come here and make a new layer. I'm going to pull this layer then below my main image layer. And when that's selected, I'm going to go up to edit and do a fill. And when I fill that in, I'm going to contents, I can choose custom color, but I can, or black is the default. So I'm going to click black. You can also do white or gray. I'm going to click on that. And it actually did not work because I have this white area underneath. So that would be more complicated. It would have probably worked better if I had done that before I merged all my layers. But this is getting kind of long. But there you go. So I could probably make a new layer now. We'll fill it with black. Aha, now I got my black back. So I'm just putting that in there. Obviously, I haven't fine-tuned all that stuff, but I'll leave that. But if you wanted something asymmetrical as a backdrop, you could do that. Of course, remember, we could change the canvas size again. If you wanted some black area around it, we could continue to increase the canvas size. You might decide that you wanted a height of, let's just say 14 for purposes here. And it's going to extend like that. Now, it's checkerboard, which means that area is transparent. So I'd have to go back to my first layer, the black layer, and I could refill it. Edit fill, do the black. Now it's filled out. But so now you kind of see those three images. And maybe that's interesting. Another option, of course, is to use the crop tool. And you could crop out the image so you just have one long panoramic that's continuous. You can always move around the image if you need to with the bottom, or you can hold down the space bar and you get the hand tool and you can click and drag around. So yeah, so I can double click on that and now I have a longer panoramic image that I can work with. So the last thing we should talk about maybe is output image size. Well, we can talk about that down the road when it comes to printing this, so you don't have to worry about making it full size for printing. But what I would like to talk to you about is how to save it. So especially if you have a working image and you have multiple layers, it would be a good idea to come up here and do save. And when I do save as, or if I have layers, even if I do save, it should kind of prompt me to save it as a Photoshop format, since it has layers. And there's only a couple different file formats that support layers. It's really TIFF or Photoshop or versions of Photoshop. So just save it as a .psd, which is the native Photoshop format. Image one or whatever you want to call it, and then save. And that's going to save all of your information. So that would be the best option. If you wanted to save it and also share it with a friend as a JPEG, of course, you can do save as, or you can do save a copy. And when you do save a copy, you can choose a JPEG and then you can save it. And it'll ask you how compressed you want it. If you want it to be somewhere between 8 and 10 is usually good. You can save it, click OK, and it'll save that JPEG for you. And you can share that. But I'd prefer to get the PSD file from you all for our project. I hope that's helpful. I hope you've enjoyed the beach, and I look forward to seeing you soon.